Hi, welcome to another episode of the South Texas Power Hour. I'm Matt Duke, and I am here with Mau. Mau is one of the leading marketers, also his product developer here, and he's going to talk more about marketing for startups and working to find that right product fit. Mau, thanks for being here.
Appreciate you having me, brother.
So you wear a whole lot of hats. We've known each other for quite a while. You've got Groupresario. You've got your new Gurubrew that you're working on. I mean, I call you a serial entrepreneur. You're the definition of it.
That's right.
Tell our listeners a little bit about you and your journey and what you're doing these days and what you continue to do here in San Antonio.
Yeah. Where do I start? I grew up in San Antonio. I spent my summers in Mexico. I was born in Mexico. My parents moved here. I was probably like a month old. Too young to remember when they moved. But I grew up seeing my dad working like 5 jobs. So holidays were rough, just spending time with mom, spending time with my brother. My father was never there, and he's got the work ethic of my grandfather. So just through that experience, I guess I built this like work ethic, stamina to what I was doing or to what I wanted to do in life. And shortly after high school, my parents were a big influence to convince me to go to college, and I ended up studying at UIW. I studied economics, finance there, finished school there in 2012. And by that time, I was already, participating in small ventures, whether it was managing money pools in Forex, just different small things that I was doing. And eventually, I knew that I wanted to be in a role in finance, but not just any role, right? I didn't just want to go to a bank and be a banker or a financial advisor somewhere. I knew that the epicenter of where I wanted to be was New York. So shortly after graduating, I had a position in Bernie, working for a private wealth company, and we were managing books there, managing finances there. During that time, I was in talks with 3 groups out of New York, that were helping us manage the portfolio that we had. And through that experience, I was like, you know what? I need to try to get to New York. So 2 years into my role, I just began applying everywhere that I could possibly apply in New York City, and ended up getting a call back over a span of a week. And I flew out on a Thursday, got interviewed on Friday morning. I still remember that, walking through Manhattan. It was a cold, I think it was like December. And I wasn't expecting it to be that cold. I had been in New York before. I spent a lot of time in New York in the past 6 years before I graduated. But I was literally wearing a summer suit, no jacket. It was like 10 degrees. But got to my interview, nailed it, and I started to work a month after that, or 2 weeks after that. And I was a broker there. Started as a junior broker. Through that experience, you're a coffee fetcher. So built a lot of stamina through that experience. And shortly after, when you start on Wall Street, it's a different journey than what you would experience like in somewhere like Texas, like right. Dallas or San Antonio. When you start on Wall Street or working at a brokerage in New York, you're at the bottom of the barrel. You're nothing until you could prove that you have work ethic or that you are someone that they should adopt. So per se, pay for your licenses, pay for all the things that are required for you to be successful in finance. And I got adopted by one of the senior brokers there probably about 3 months after I started, and slowly started getting mentored from him. I'd say his name, but there's a lot on the back end.
No, you're good.
Don't want to go into too much, but got adopted by him, was mentored for him for a good year. Through that experience, I learned a lot. Just basic fundamental knowledge of how money works in the world. This guy was an entrepreneur himself, but his background was finance. He was a broker. He's been a broker for the past 20 years that I had been there. So older guy, and just learned a lot from that experience. And from there, I knew that I wanted just to be kind of like him. I just wanted to be, he was this Italian or Jewish guy that took care of the family. Like, he would send me out to go take money to his grandmother, who he was taking care of in Brooklyn. He would send me on errands just to take care of his family, and just seeing that and experiencing that, I was like, man, like, I want to be like this guy. I'm very close to my parents, close to my brother, and just from those experiences, I wanted to mimic his lifestyle. So when I moved back, I knew that I wanted to, just participate in ventures. And while my background is economics, I understand finance. We still manage a portfolio. I'm still with my buddy Paul. We're still managing money there. But I knew that I wanted to do something that was, that felt, not that managing money isn't impactful, but, it's very clean slate. You don't, when you manage money, you're not exploring, you're not gambling, you have an investment philosophy, you have a fiduciary duty to protect, and there's not much playroom in that. And I wanted to play. So that's what I started whenever I started the media company, Gurubrew. And Gurubrew allowed me to, formulate strategies for my clients, formulate strategies for freelance work that I was doing. It allowed me to invest in camera equipment and just shoot what I wanted, how I wanted, start a podcast, talk about what I wanted. So it just gave me free mobility to do whatever I wanted to do. And yeah, that's where I'm at now. And then, as you know, Gurubrew started about a year ago. I've been making it since 2014.
Well, but before we go into that, let me ask you,
Yeah.
how would you define yourself? I mean, that's a rich history, and story and career that you've had so far. For those that don't know, and we'll have a link in, all of our stuff that we post on social media. I mean, you're into photography, which I think is cool. I mean, I really, really do. That's one of the first things that, connected you and I was your very urban look and photography that you have, which I really, really appreciate. So you've got that. You've got the creative side between what you do personally and also for others through Gurubrew. How do you define yourself to people? Like when they say, what do you do? Because you still actually are a finance guy managing other people's money. So how do you define yourself?
Man, that's... I mean, if I think in most essence, because I've had some experiences that have pulled me away from, like, when I first meet people, they're like, "Oh, well, you're just an entrepreneur," and I'm like, "No, I'm a little beyond that." I would define myself just as being intentional and conscious about whatever I'm doing in life. My biggest thing that I get off of is being able to impact the lives of others in a positive manner, right? Life is hard enough for a lot of people, whether it was a pandemic, whether it was just living life, or depression or chronic depression, or
right.
Whatever people go through, that they experience these things. And I had a very good upbringing, but a lot of when I was growing up, I dealt with a lot of like anxiety and depression, and I had no idea where it was stemming from. So I mean, if I would define myself, I'd just be an advocate for others to live intentionally and live the life that they want. You get one life. You could either sell yourself out to whatever corporation you want to do, or you can live your own dreams if you're intentional and you're conscious about how you're living life. So I would just say an advocate of life.
Oh, that's great. Well, let me ask you, and I want to get into Gurubrew here in a second, but let's just take Gurubrew and what you do from a strategic standpoint for other people with regard to their businesses. What are those key one or two things that you see are consistently across people when they come to ask you advice on how they should market or position their products and they hire you to do this? What are those one or two key things that you see just consistently every time?
Like expectations, or in terms of
gaps?
I think a lot of people make the mistake of just focusing immediately on ROI. A big thing in marketing is that there's never guarantees, and that's something we have to understand. To be truthful with you, I think that the marketing industry, in terms of media agencies, is a dying industry, and I'll tell you why. But two key things I would say is the expectations of return on investment are very they're disconnected with the reality of how the world of marketing and media works. Right? Like somebody could sell you impressions, and we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
Somebody could sell you impressions, but impressions doesn't mean conversions.
Right.
And while impressions looks great and you're getting eyes on your product, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're speaking to your audience.
Right.
So one is that setting the right expectation, right, for ROI, and then two, you have a message as a brand, right? Like Matthew Duke Law Firm has a message that they want to give to their clients or their respective market. And a lot of people make the mistake of not understanding how their audience perceives, right? Because like us as brand owners or business owners, we know what we stand for, but sometimes we make the mistake of interpreting that out. Like we make a video or we make a commercial and people perceive that commercial as like, no, that guy's a douchebag. He's not helpful, right? Yeah. Or situations like that. And I say that from my perspective. Like people have been like, I thought you were an asshole. I'm like, no, man. Like I love people. I'm not an asshole. I was like, I guess I missed the mark when I created that video.
Yeah.
Or when I created that graphic or when I shot that photo.
Right.
So a lot of it is interpretation of your audience perception to what you really think about yourself, right? Like we have brand values and we want those values to be told through our marketing. And if you're not hitting that.
Right. How do you, that's interesting. So I get the whole ROI. I mean, being as, a healthcare executive in a large organization, I had marketing responsibilities during my stint. I mean, marketing, you can't tie ROI to marketing. And, I've had financial people, in those organizations go, I'm not spending money on marketing because it doesn't result in an ROI. I want ROI.
Yeah.
So I get that one. That one gets talked about all the time. But the second one you bring up on the disconnect to your actual receiver of the marketing on values, how do you test that? Like, how do you validate that?
A lot of it, I mean, you have to manage the small things in the beginning to be able to hit that, right? Because if you don't manage those small things, and I'll tell you what the small things are, if you don't manage those small things in the beginning, then you're totally going to miss it. And it's really hard to measure.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do you measure that unless you go and survey?
Right. People do large organizations do focus groups to test their messaging out. I get all that.
That can be very expensive.
But I mean, we're talking about venture-backed startups looking for a product market fit. We're talking about small business owners. We don't have budgets to go out and do focus groups. So, I mean, are there other ways that you can test that,
I mean, testing wise, what I would always say is you have to manage, for one, if you hire a marketing company or a marketing person or an agency, you want them to understand you as a person, which is the most important, I think, step into providing a product for someone, right? Like I have to understand how Matthew Duke thinks. I have to understand what situations Matthew Duke deals with on a daily basis and how he handles those situations for me to be able to tell the proper story as a strategist.
Got it.
And for me, that's proven well, right? If I could sit down with this person and I could call this person at any point, or this person could call me, and we could go have a beer and we could hang out, and we really become friends, and I understand his way of thinking, then it's very likely that I'm going to hit it. I'm going to be able to do it.
Right.
Unless you understand how these people think as people and how they serve their clients as people, unless you understand that fully, it's going to be hard for you to do it. Thought I silenced my phone.
No, you're good.
So it's going to be really hard to do it if you don't do that homework.
Right.
In terms of measuring that, I mean, it's just difficult, right? Like if you're not surveying, I don't have a method to understand that other than comments, emails coming in,
which are anecdotal, right?
Right.
They're not necessarily a general market perspective. They're anecdotal. Let's take that and roll it in, because I mean, again, that gets your experience from the marketing and the brand strategy to the product right now that you're involved in. Tell us a little bit more about your current venture with the Gurubrew.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying it right. Say it for me.
No, you
again.
said it right.
Okay.
Gurubrew.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, it's a mouthful and it's cool and it sticks out. I mean, again, another, I believe marketing, part of the tack to that. But tell us a little bit about that idea, where that is, because I know you've been working on it for a while and some of the formula stuff. Tell us more about that.
You want to know like the philosophy behind it, or
just give us the entrepreneur journey on this, because this is what I'd love to talk about, is like that product fit and how you're going through.
Yeah, it started with I pretty much had to get off caffeine, so I had to get off.
I'm not, clearly.
Yeah, no, but I'm back on regular caffeine as well, but I had to get off caffeine in some form of way, right? In 2014. I was having experiences at the gym, and I had to see a cardiologist for like 6 months.
Oh, man.
And this cardiologist pretty much came back and told me, after all these studies and whatever my insurance paid out, they came back and they were like, he came back and he was like, "You're too young." And I thought he was like blaming me for something. He's like, "You're too young to be experiencing anything significant, but your body is metabolizing caffeine and your multivitamin." I was on a strong multivitamin back then. He's like, your body's metabolizing it and recognizing it as adrenaline, which to me, I don't have a medical background. I still to this day don't know how that happens. But
who knows?
Yeah, but he was like, you got to stop drinking coffee. He's like, "Do you take pre-workout?" I was like, "No, I stopped pre-workout like 2 years ago, but I'm addicted to coffee." So at that point, I was addicted to, one, espressos, which is easy to get a decaf espresso.
Yeah.
But two, I was addicted to cold brew. And if you look at the market for cold brew, it's very hard to find a decaffeinated cold brew.
Got it.
Which eventually, I began to brew my own. And I began to use different roasters throughout the years. And in that experience, I discovered, hey, you know what? It'd be cheaper if I could just make my own cold brew, and I could experiment with the ingredients. So I began experimenting with different types of tea leaves within the cold coffee, mint, and then ultimately I came out with this product that's just mint infused cold brew.
Okay.
And it was something I would just serve friends whenever they would come over or they would go to the office. I would just have it. This wasn't a product that I wanted to make a venture out of. And I was just serving it, and I would always get good feedback. And then eventually, people were like, "Well, you need to make this an actual product that people could purchase." And then at the time, I had an intern at my wealth management business, and he said, "You know what?" He's like, I'd like to participate in some form of way." I was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he's like, "I just want to, be in the room when you're doing stuff and you're venturing with this." I was like, okay. I was like, I really don't want to make it a business because I'm super busy, but I was like, if you really want to have a significant role, come in as a small investment and help me as director of sales and distribution. And which he agreed, and he does a phenomenal job. And it's kind of where we started when we filed the business. I filed it with the intent that that Mike was going to take a lot of the lead on it, and he's been an awesome help on that. And yeah, we're hoping that it turns into something you could pick up at your local Whole Foods or natural grocers in the next coming year.
So on the journey, like the life cycle journey, I guess we'll be clear for those that are listening, is this is still very early stage.
Super early. We LLC'd the business in September of last year.
And so what I want to focus on and maybe ask some questions you about is, because you're in I would say 100% of all businesses go through this, what you're going through right now. I would gather that probably 20 to 30% actually make it through.
Yeah.
And that is identification of a market problem,
right,
or a market opportunity, because it's not always a problem,
right,
and a product that you believe will fill that problem or serve that opportunity, and then making sure it fits. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So going back into, it sounds like to me, one that started off as a personal need, but when you went out to go look, you need a decaf, cold brew. How did you go back and assess the market at that point in time? And maybe you didn't there, but how do y'all do that now? Like, how are y'all determining that this product, a decaf cold brew, right? How do you know the market exists out there and that this product has some sort of traction that it could get?
Yeah, you hear people talking about, hey, I've switched to decaf all day. Like, if you were to go to a coffee shop and you would talk to someone, they would probably tell you, yeah, I don't drink coffee after 4 o'clock, or I don't drink coffee after 10 o'clock in the morning, right? Like, I have my coffee in the morning. And
I drink coffee. I've had a cup of coffee at 7 p.m. the other day. It didn't do much good. I was still asleep at 9:30. But
so we hear about these experiences from my personal experiences that I've talked to people. I would always hear like, no, I don't drink coffee. I'm going to live with myself, and I'm not going to drink after this time, or the acidity of it, right?
Yeah.
My mother, for an example, she has an issue being too acidic, and I don't know what her doctor had told her a couple years ago. But they were like, you need to stop drinking coffee. So I knew there was a problem, right? Decaf, there's no decaf cold brew. People are stopping their coffee binge by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and people are getting too acidic. Either they're not drinking enough water or whatever they're doing. But coffee does have a role in that, right? Because coffee is acidic by nature.
Right.
So I knew that I wanted to deal with those issues of decaf and trying to lower the acidity of our coffee, which leads us to why we produce with a alkaline water. So all of our coffee brew is produced with alkaline water.
Oh, okay.
So that's just to combat the acidity of, the bitterness of coffee, and at the same time, you raise the pH level of whatever it is. We haven't tested the pH levels of our coffee today, but I know that for a fact has a role. The fact that it's cold brewed has a role in the acidity as well. And then the mint. Mint is proven to lower the acidity of something. So
right. So there's a lot behind, this opportunity that you guys were seeing there. How have you then taken these first steps? You've clearly done your market, research as to the opportunity, the size of that. We don't have to get into that today, but I'm assuming you know how big that potential market is. You've got other people like Starbucks that probably have some information about, shift to decaf and those sort of things.
Yeah.
Lack of competitors, what it sounds like.
Right.
How do you then test your product? I mean, you've done it limited with friends, family, right. Somewhat anecdotal. How do you start to test your product now with that market? How's that been?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, so like how we test it is when a stranger tries our brew, right? Whether they we're at 2 shops right now, and when we get a random tag from someone that we've never talked to, and they're telling us like, hey, this brew is awesome. Or somebody that we know gives it to a friend, and then their feedback is like, this stuff is addicting.
Right.
That to me is a test of the market.
Yeah.
To say that, hey, you know what, we're onto something here, and yeah, if we stay on it, then I think eventually we'll take market share. But the testing of is just coming from direct market from people that we don't know.
How did you get into your first? You said you're in 2 shops. I mean, if you want to say which shops those are, that's up to you or not. But okay, so you've got a product. You guys are now producing them.
Yeah.
How'd you get into, now you got to start trying to sell, how'd you get into those first couple of shops? What does that look like for really early, getting people to adopt your product or put it on the shelves? What's that look like?
I mean, at the beginning, it was me kind of just like interacting with different restaurant owners, and they're like, hey, yeah, we could use a cold brew, and then we would sample it with them, and if they liked it, they vibed, then they would kind of talk to us about what is the feasibility of going in there look like, right? How much do they have to purchase? From the back end is, after those first couple of months, I got really busy, and then Mike's been doing a phenomenal job of following up with these guys, and Mike just pretty much calls these guys or walks in. A big thing that he was doing is he was messaging them through our social media platforms, messaging them, telling them, hey, we have a cold brew. We're a fan of your shop, or we're a fan of your restaurant. We'd love to get an opportunity to have you try it. And basically we would just go. We would literally bottle a 6-pack. Mike and I would go to this shop or go to this bar, or go to this restaurant, sit down with the owner or sit down with the GM and say, all right, let's sample. And then, we're there and we're sampling, and their faces light up as soon as they have a drink, and they're like, for some bar owners, like we went to Bar 1919, and immediately they were like, I want to try making a cocktail with this. We're like, cool. We left them like 3 bottles, experiment with it. We have a follow-up with those guys, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, the process was just,
hand-to-hand combat, man.
Bro, just pick up the phone, call.
Right.
Which is a big thing that I believe in. It's what I learned in New York is call strangers.
Yeah.
If you call strangers and you follow up and you know how to speak and you know how to talk to them,
yep.
Then you're going to, it's going to be very likely that you're going to get an opportunity.
It takes a lot of it's almost like those from early on adoption. I mean, I'm sure you've gotten some no's, right?
Of course.
Which, that's part of the job. But I mean, probably from your New York days, you probably got a lot more no's and a lot more disrespectful no's than what you get on doing the brew. But talk a little bit about the resiliency that it takes, to go out there and push a brand new product into the market, even at this stage that you're in.
I think you're always going to deal with no's. I think you're always going to deal with, you got to pick yourself back up. Like my biggest thing when I was in New York, we would, and I kid you not, we would run through 300 calls in a day, easily. So when people are like, oh, I just did 100 calls today, or I did 50 calls, I'm like, step it up. I was like, you're not going to build the stamina doing that. So yeah, back to your question is, you just have to convince, if you feel that you have the proper product or the right product that you're passionate about,
right,
then you need to convince yourself that I'm going to do the work required to make this work. If you're not passionate about it, you're probably not going to put it in the time. You're probably not going to make the calls. You're probably not going to follow up. You're probably not going to take the time to bottle 6 beverages before you go out and drive, a 20-minute drive to go deliver just to have someone sample it.
Right.
You're probably not going to do all those things, which goes back to my principle of life is that you should be doing whatever you're passionate about, right? If you're going to sell yourself out for a corporation, which is okay, you could do that, but stack your money and then eventually do what you want to do. But yeah, just building resiliency, a big part of that is just being passionate about what you're doing.
So you guys are early in it. You're getting good early success with regard to customer reviews and people that are testing it. As you sit here today, looking into the future, what are you as the founder looking at of your milestones that you want to be trying to push through? How do you view the future and what you're going to need in order to make this a success?
Like, as in Gurubrew?
Yeah, let's stick with that. We can go back to Gurubrew too, and any other stuff that you're working on. But from you've got market, you're testing it, good feedback. You're
Right.
trying to get some traction with regard to some customers, and maybe a little bit of some distributions there. But what do you see as the pathway for this today?
I think we'll eventually take market share to the point that, in terms of Gurubrew, I think we'll take market share to the point where we're going to either be able to license whatever recipe we have, which is another thing we have in the back end, is we're trying to get a broad patent. If we could get it, I don't know what the viability of that looks like, but license the product. If not license the product or the process that we do it, sell the business and then hop into something else. We know that there is a demand for the product, right? Because people vibe with it, people buy it. As high of a price point it is, our price point is $6 per bottle.
Okay.
So if you look at another company like Cuvée or something, you're probably paying $3 for the same size. Our bottle is 8 ounces, not 12 ounces, which is standard can. And then we produce in a glass bottle. So it's definitely a higher price market. But yeah, eventually I think the objective is to grow it enough to acquire a market share that's significant enough to either sell or license the product.
Nice. What are your biggest barriers today that you face, and how do you overcome them?
Personal or like business?
I don't want your personal one there. I don't bring personal stuff in here. We'd be here forever between the two of us. No, from the business. Like, what are your biggest challenges that you face in this stage of your company, and how are you overcoming them?
You want the honest approach?
Well, that's
no
the
matter
point
how
of
many
it.
how bad it looks. I think in terms of media, I'll say media because that's the biggest. We're not dealing with challenges in Gurubrew right now,
Okay.
but I'll say the Gurubrew media business. I'll go back to what I said. I feel like media agencies is a dying industry, right? Like, if you can't serve your clients authentically and you can't serve your clients in a manner that is most beneficial to them, then it's hard to stay in business, right? Because nobody's going to hire you.
Right.
My foundation when I formed Gurubrew under Gurubrew, it was authentic marketing, an authentic approach to marketing. The issue with that is you're not selling impressions, and when you don't sell impressions, when a company hires you to provide ROI, or they're not going to hire you.
Right.
So as this information service, and I was just at South by Southwest, and I went through it's like a 6-hour talk with 4 different executives, different marketing officers from Indeed, Salesforce, a company called Oxford Road out of San Fran, and then I forgot the other name of another company who was actually organizing the whole. But in those conversations, the biggest thing in all of those 6 hours that we were there was authenticity in marketing and how the industry is changing, where people are looking for more authentic forms of marketing. And that's totally different from what it was before. So with that being said, big challenges that I'm dealing with right now is San Antonio for one. Everyone wants, when we get hired, everyone wants immediate feedback on their market campaign or on their marketing. And we have to establish, the precedence that marketing is a luxury. Marketing to me is not not anyone could do proper marketing. If you want me to sell you Google ads, I could do that.
Right.
But I wouldn't be doing you justice. I would be, per se, ripping you off, committing fraud, in my opinion, right? Because you're just taking money to provide something that's really not giving them the proper marketing strategy. So yeah, I mean, some of the biggest challenges we're dealing with is just being in San Antonio. San Antonio, I think, is a little behind in terms of interpreting what marketing really is in the world. San Francisco's starting to get it, right, just based on this conversation with Oxford Road. New York has always understood it, right, which is why you see, YouTube influencers promoting their stuff all over, like Casey Neistat, Gary Vee, all of that style of marketing. New York understands it. I think San Antonio's a little behind. And just being at our bases here, it makes it difficult for us to be successful. So biggest challenges of that is just that in itself. It's just we're in a city that is still adapting to what marketing truly is.
What's next for you?
Just listed my place to sell. Went live today.
Your house?
Condo.
Okay. I've been in business, but
yeah, no.
If you're getting into real estate, I got it. But
no. Just listed my place today, and I don't know, man. If that sells, then my option is I want to keep an office here. Okay. Our office is in Alamo Heights. I think there's a lot of opportunity in San Antonio, and I want San Antonio to succeed. With that being said, this is home. I want this place to be the epicenter of what we do. But honestly, I think there's a lot of stuff happening in Austin or Brooklyn. So Brooklyn, New York, where I used to live, there's a lot of opportunity there. I'm there 5 times a year. And just the conversations that I've been having and the opportunities that have kind of come about, not being there has made it difficult to execute on those opportunities. So there's an option period there that I could potentially, make a market out of Brooklyn, New York.
Interesting.
If not Austin. I'd like to be in Austin just because it's closer to my parents.
Is that on the Gurubrew?
That's on the Gurubrew.
Or okay.
Both, actually. I mean, both,
yeah.
Right? There's a market for coffee there. It's super saturated in Brooklyn. So it's a little more competitive. But yeah, there's an opportunity for both. But I'm thinking in terms of media, Gurubrew media.
Last thing here for it, and just another one. If you could give a short, quick, something that an entrepreneur could use just as a mantra, of being an entrepreneur, because you're that kind of guy.
Yeah.
What would be the mantra that you would give them to just have echo in their mind?
It's going to sound a little unorthodox, but don't let money be the epicenter of what you want to do. Don't let money be the ultimate motivating factor. And you hear a lot of entrepreneurs preach about that, oh no, chase the money or make the money, stack it, flip it, go to the next project. And while as an entrepreneur, that's innate, that's something that should definitely live within your spirit to do. We're in a period in this world where I think we have to be a little more conscious and intentional about how we're living life. Alan Green's, and I always quote this by Alan Greenspan, but he has a quote, I don't know the exact quote, but it talks about not leaving others in your wake for your success. And I think that's important, right? I think in whatever project or whatever venture you're running, you have to be, one, authentic. I hope you're ethical in what you're doing as a venture, as an entrepreneur, and intentional. And I think just being conscious of, there's people that are affected by what you do. And if you're focused on the money, you're going to miss a lot of that. You're going to miss those moments where you sit down like us, where you actually have a real conversation with someone.
Right.
And you're not necessarily focused on, hey, how can I get, $10K out of this guy? No, life's more important than that. To me, life is about understanding people's stories, getting to know someone, and opportunities will always come out of that. So my advice to entrepreneurs or up-and-coming entrepreneurs would be don't necessarily focus on the money will come. Focus more on the relationship and the conversation and just being there, being a servant to whatever it is, love or intentional living or conscious thinking.
That's great.
I won't get too deep.
No, that's exactly what I wanted. I really appreciate you coming. Speaking of relationships,
Appreciate
I've
you
always appreciated and
Likewise,
valued our
man.
friendship and you coming on this and you teaching, me on having me on your podcast, which continues to go forward, out there. But I really thank you for coming here
Appreciate you
and
having me.
sharing, with everyone, what your wisdom is, because that is one thing about you, the authenticity, as I've told you, of what you do, your photography, your marketing. It's something that it stood out to me in there. And so, another anecdotal, but some customer feedback there, friend feedback
Yeah.
of what you're doing. And I'm sure that's the same for the Gurubrew. For those that are listening to us on Apple or Spotify, go ahead and click subscribe or send us a note. Let us know we're adding value. If you're watching us on YouTube, same thing. Subscribe to us, send us a comment. The description I'll have in there how you can get a hold of Mau for all the opportunities that he's working on. Until next then, we'll see you then. Bye.